Are you considering moving to a smaller town, perhaps as one of your 2025 resolutions? Well, this video is for you. Since the pandemic, many Kenyans have started working from home, or what we call remote working. Could be either you are employed somewhere and you do not have to show up in the office, or you are self-employed and whatever you do does not need you to have a physical premise or a physical working point. You can work anywhere. Now, over the last 4 years, there has been a trend where many people have considered moving out of Nairobi, out of the city, to other smaller towns for various reasons. And it is common to make this kind of decisions as a New Year resolution. So some people will decide at the end of the year, one of the things I need to do is to change my environment, and that will probably require me to move out of the city. Maybe you want to raise your kids in a more serene environment, or for other reasons. Here are 5 things to consider when you are moving to a smaller town. Number 1 is affordability. One of the biggest motivations for moving out of the city is because life is quite affordable in the smaller towns. It could be rent that is cheaper, or maybe the houses are bigger, or maybe land is also quite cheaper away from Nairobi, because Nairobi land prices have been going up for a long period of time, and the cost of living is a lot cheaper in many smaller towns compared to Nairobi. Number 2 is greater privacy and closeness to nature. So one of the limitations when you live in a big city like Nairobi is there isn't much privacy. You probably are able to only afford an apartment that could be squeezed. Every time you have a guest, everyone is able to see you. Or maybe the only space you have to yourself is a balcony that is facing another house, and those kind of issues. And then in the smaller towns, it's possible to get the suburb kind of life even without breaking the bank. So you may be able to get a 1-bedroom house with a non-compound, or maybe in some places you'll get a house that is facing the beach without paying an arm and a leg. So you're able to interact more with nature. And because of the dynamics of the smaller towns, you get more privacy because you don't have so many neighbors, or maybe not so many people know you. But it also means, as you think about moving to that, it also depends on your personal needs. Are you someone who loves company a lot, and maybe you are living alone? So that it's important to consider the dynamics, because you may resolve to move to a smaller town, and because of your nature you find yourself being lonely and miserable, which it's not ideal. Number 3 is a stronger sense of community. The smaller towns have been found to have a stronger sense of community because most people know each other. Unlike in the city where most people keep to themselves, in the smaller towns you probably go to a church where everyone knows you, or maybe the neighbors have a habit of visiting each other, and the sense of community is much stronger than you will find in Nairobi, because there are so many issues here in the city. There is trust issues. You do not want your neighbor coming over to your house randomly, or maybe your friend lives far off. But then in the smaller towns, these ties are much more closer because of the dynamics. You only have yourselves in that small town community. So it's either the people you go to church with, the people you work with, your neighbors. You have to frequently be in discussion. So if you're looking for a stronger sense of community, then you may realize this may be ideal. In some smaller towns in Kenya, certain communities have been able to build together. So you may find retirees, for example, common in the coastal areas. You may find Diani having people who used to work together, and they moved there and they either bought homes or rented it out. It's easier for you to be incorporated in this community because they moved there with the same intention of retiring. But it could also be that some people with shared values want to move to another part of Kenya, and they build that community there. Number 4 is, as you are planning to move out of the city, you may want to invest in a strong internet system. This is because while we enjoy very good internet in Nairobi, the situation may not be the case in every smaller town. So in the smaller towns, there could be a number of issues. Maybe there is no fiber optic cable. So you may find some other places the 4G or even 5G network is very weak because of their location. So it's good to visit and assess the situation and make a plan on how, because if you're working from home, most people will often need very reliable internet and very reliable power systems. So it's good to assess so that you can make an investment accordingly. These days it's a lot easier to, if you have the capital and you have decided you are moving there permanently, with the right kind of capital you will get accessible or reliable internet. That could be either investing in a receiver or even with the satellite-based technology like Starlink. Number 5 is to acclimatize, and to acclimatize means you adjust your lifestyle needs according to the situation in the smaller towns. And before you commit to a certain smaller town, it's good to visit it so that you can assess some of the needs that you regularly need and whether you'll be able to cope in that situation. So you may find some smaller towns, if you have frequent need for medical care, the hospital may be harder to access in that remote place than it will be here in Nairobi. Other issues could be you probably are used to having, for example, fast food, or you enjoy dining out, and some small towns are yet to build the infrastructure for having good restaurants. So it's important to research. Various small towns will have certain advantages. The others that you either make a compromise on the cost of living. So smaller towns may also have a higher cost of living dynamics because maybe there are many expatriates who are living there. Others will maybe have a limitation on the restaurants or the social life, while others maybe it's the infrastructure, which could be transport, communication. It's important to assess, and that will mean maybe visiting during this time of the year on the Christmas and some other time before you can commit to moving there. So you want to assess it different times. So you may go to a smaller town like Nanyuki and enjoy, and it's always good to visit another period of time, because whatever you may enjoy may be because of the festive season, and then come next year when you have decided to move there, you are disappointed because there are other dynamics. So before you commit to a certain place, make sure you get a sense of how it is to live there at different times. Money254.co.ke has written more about some of the considerations to make when moving to a smaller town, as well as some of the advantages you may get by moving out of the city to a smaller, quiet life. Click on the link provided to learn more.